Hey there, welcome to DidgieTalks. On this channel we do both deep dive technical reviews, and as part of my Living With series I'll share with you my experience of living with technology over a period of time. Today we're talking about living with a smart trainer. Hey there and welcome to DidgieTalks. As requested by some of my followers and as part of my Living With series, today I'm going to be talking about living with a smart bike trainer. In my case that's a Wattbike Atom. Whilst on the subject of followers, if you like my videos, please remember to like, please remember to share, and please remember to subscribe. The more subscriptions I get, the more videos I make, and that way you'll be alerted to the videos as I release them to YouTube. Whilst on the subject of my smart trainer, my Wattbike Atom, I just want to point out that in this video I don't intend to do a deep dive technical review of every aspect of the Wattbike Atom specifically. I will cover some of the technical aspects of that, some of the software, some of the hardware, but there are plenty of videos out there that will go into much deeper dive technology detailed reviews, and I'll put some links in the description below so you can get to those. This video is really more about what your options are for owning one of these things at home, and what I've experienced personally having had one of these things at home for over a year now. So let's start with the obvious, the convenience factor. If like me you're a keen cyclist but not an extreme cyclist, then with autumn drawing in and winter drawing in, your thoughts will be turning to how can you make sure you stay fit, you stay on your bike one way or the other, but you don't necessarily have to go out and brave the elements every single day. Well, obviously these things are really convenient for that. If you get up in the morning and it's chucking it down with rain, but you still want to go for a ride, or at least you still want to exercise, then having one of these things at home is fantastic. Yes, you can join a gym and you can do that, and I am a member of a gym, and you can go to the gym for the social aspects, and you can go to the gym for all the equipment, for the all-over body workout and so on. But sometimes you really just want to jump on a bike or do some training or some spinning, and you want to do it in the convenience of your own home. That's when these things really come into their own. So what types of trainers are there available to you? Well, let's start with spinners. And spinners are pretty basic. They're essentially a bike type style with a heavy flywheel and a fixed pedal chainring. So as the wheel goes around, the pedals go around, it's fixed, and you just literally spin, hence the name spinners. Now these things are great for cardiovascular workouts, and I use one of those at the gym. They're also really good when you look at options like Peloton. So if you have a Peloton spinner at home, for example, that gives you both the benefit and the convenience of having a spinner at home that you can use anytime, but also with the screen and with the community that you can become part of, you can join classes, you can communicate with other people. That's also available on my Wattbike Atom through applications like Zwift, for example, and I'll come to that. But in the case of a spinner, you have both the convenience of ease of use. It's pretty basic, it just does what it says, it spins, and you can also sign up to things like Peloton if you want to make it a bit more of a community affair. The next things that are available are your smart trainers. And before I had this, I had a smart trainer, I had a Wahoo Kicker, and those things are great. However, for me, it was a little less convenient. Whilst it was smaller and more portable, so I could pack it away more easily, I did have to put my bike on it, which meant taking my bike out of the garage, taking off the back wheel, fixing it to the unit, and then I'd have my bike and I'd have the trainer in the house all the time. It was great because actually I was essentially riding my bike, so in terms of fit and in terms of posture and all those sorts of things, nothing changed. Those trainers are brilliant as well, and the Wahoo Kicker is a smart trainer. So again, you can use it with apps like Trainer Road or like Zwift, and it will adjust the resistance and it will adjust the tension. So, really good bits of kit. But I decided to move away from those small portable kickers because of the inconvenience of having to mess around with my bike and put my bike on it and take the back wheel off and put the back wheel on and so on, and go for something that was just ready made up. Hence I moved to a bike trainer. I really liked the technology aspects of the Wahoo Kicker and the way you could hook it up with various apps and so on, and it adjusted the resistance, and I wanted to keep that. So when I got this, at the time there were very few options like this available, and the Wattbike Atom being one of them, whilst relatively expensive, it was around £1,400, £1,500, it just covered all of those bases for me. It's ready-made, It's really adjustable, so I can get it to fit pretty much the same as my road bike or my mountain bike. I do both. It's always on, it's always ready. My bikes are still out in the garage. I can jump on those without having to mess around. But if for whatever reason, whether it be through not having a lot of time or whether the weather itself is not convenient, then I can just jump on this thing and I can do all the training I need to do at any time. And that is super, super convenient for me. So, you know, there are times when I literally just want to do 30 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour, and I don't want to have to mess around with the bike. I don't want to have to bother getting all dressed up, and I don't want to have to then go out and then come back and then service the bike. And so having a smart home trainer for me is really, really convenient. And whilst on the subject of convenience, and I mentioned there getting dressed up, then these things are also fantastic for that. You're not actually going out, you're not actually trying to fit in with anybody else. It's all in the comfort of your own home. And so you can wear pretty much what you want. And to that point, bear with me. There you go, point in case. I'm certainly not coordinated. I'm wearing lots of different colours. I wouldn't necessarily be seen dead out on my bike in this stuff. I'm also wearing my mountain biking shorts because they're more comfortable. So I'm not fully lycra'd up. Totally convenient, totally easy, and no need to worry about showing off and posing. So in terms of clothing, I mean, that's one of the things. You can literally jump on this bike in your underwear if you should choose so. But that ability to just throw something on, jump on the bike, do the training that you want to do, get off, carry on with your day, is one of the main convenient factors. So, you know, clothing is really useful. I mean, the fact that it's sat here, it's waiting to go, ready to go, I mean, that's just fantastic. That means that at any point, even sometimes when I haven't really been thinking about it, I'll literally just walk past the dining room and think, oh, you know what I'll do? I'll spend 30 minutes on my bike. So for things like that, it's just absolutely ideal. There are a few things you do need to consider. So space is obviously a bit of an issue. These are, whilst they don't take up more space than a power trainer, turbo trainer and a bike that have been put together, because they are one piece and therefore a little bit less convenient in terms of portability and packing away, you know, you don't tend to put them away much and you tend to leave them where they are. And so having the space to use those is one of those things you do need to consider. Now, I've taken some space at the end of our dining room, which has meant I've had to move a few things around. They do take up a fair bit of space, and if it's there the whole time, then it becomes part of the furniture in its own right. We don't tend to hang too much off of it, but nevertheless, it's there, it's omnipresent. So you do need to think about that. You do need to think about where you're going to put this thing, where you're going to leave it, because you don't tend to wheel them around very much. They're quite heavy. Now, this particular Wattbike Atom does have some wheels on the front of it, so I can just tilt it up and wheel it around. But it's a big bit of kit. It weighs quite a lot, and just even wheeling it from the house into the garage is quite an effort. So you do need to think about that. So the other thing I mentioned there is we've got it in my dining room, and my dining room is carpeted. And these things are quite heavy. So you can imagine that this is going to put some real dent in your carpet. I have a few of the mats you get with trainers. So the kicker mat and the mat that actually I ordered with the Wattbike. And I have some other mats that I put on the floor in an attempt to protect the carpet from having those little round feet always in the same place on the carpet. So hopefully I'm doing my best to protect that, but that is something else you need to consider. If you don't have a hard board that you can put it on, or a hard floor, you do need to think about getting some mats and putting those mats down to protect the floors. If you do have a hard floor, then the mats also help with noise and vibration. But in my case, the vibration is not an issue. The mats are simply there to protect the carpet. The other thing you do need to get if you're going to be using one of these things is a fan. Because you're stationary, usually in a relatively small room, and your home central heating or temperature is nice and comfortable for living in, it does mean you get quite hot. So I use a Honeywell fan. It was pretty cheap. I'll put a link to it in the description. and it services my needs perfectly. I've also placed mine next to the patio doors, so in the right conditions I can open those doors and have that cool air coming through. But you do need to have some moving air, and you do need to have some cool air if you're using it at home. That's an absolute. Without that, it gets way too hot and way too sweaty. So you definitely need to use that. Now, the other thing that is convenient about these is the use of an app or a training tool. I use two training apps, that being Zwift. I'm a member of Zwift, and Zwift is absolutely fantastic. I'll put some stuff on the screen. You can ride through different courses, you can ride with friends, you can ride with strangers, you can make new friends. But the Zwift app actually interacts with the power trainer, and so it will adjust the tension and the resistance on the flywheel, so that if you're going uphill it gets harder, if you're going downhill it gets easier, if you're on the flats it's nice and steady. And that is fantastic. It kind of just gives you both that realism edge in terms of you're looking at something in terms of moving scenery, but also the fact that your bike is automatically reacting and responding to that scenery and to the situation within that scenery. That just gives it that little extra edge. The other app I really use is the Wattbike app, and that's a bit more of a training specific app. It does all sorts of things that really kind of help your training, so you can have very specific training set up within that app. You can be training for a long distance ride, you can be training for hill climbs, you can be training for just general base level fitness and so on. There are plenty of different options within those apps, and I'll put some of those on the screen too. And between those two apps, I pretty much have everything I need to both enjoy and stay fit, and train if necessary for a specific event. And I find that really, really useful. Obviously, you can also hook these things up to your heart monitors, and you can hook it up to your Garmin and so on. And that again is super useful. And in the case of the Wattbike Atom, you have on these bars here, you have a bit of kit that will enable you to slot in an iPad, for example, or in my case, I use my phone. I don't need a necessarily big screen. Again, the convenience of having a phone, we've all got one. You can run the app on your phone. I can slot it in here. It's right in front of me and really easy to use. The other thing that this Wattbike Atom has, which the power trainers or power bike trainers of today all have too, is I do have the ability to change gear. So whether I'm doing a fixed training program or whether I'm just using Zwift and doing one of their Wiltopia rides, I can adjust the gears. So if I'm on a really steep hill, I can bring those gears down as low as possible, and then obviously put them up as high as possible if I'm going downhill to get up to real speed. And I use that a lot. I tend to be a big shifter of gears, and I use my gears quite a lot, and having that function on this bike is absolutely fantastic. The other thing this bike has got, which is really useful, is it has a cadence and it has a power sensors on it. So whilst I'm doing all of this, I'm measuring my cadence, I'm measuring the power I'm putting into it, I'm measuring my heart rate, I'm doing all the things you'd expect to do, I'm doing mileage. And for that reason, it just really feels like you've got a lot of data and a lot of information, which just again makes the ride a little bit more useful, a little bit more enjoyable, and gives you a bit more in terms of if you're actually training to deliver something. There are some other bikes available now. When I got this it was one of the few, but since the release of the Wattbike Atom, Tax have now released what they call the Neo. And I'll put some of that on the screen, and I'll put a link in the description. And likewise, Wahoo have released a bike recently. Both of those bikes are more expensive than the Wattbike Atom. Both of them are really great bits of kit for both the professional trainer right the way through to your casual cyclist like myself. But as I say, they are more expensive. They're around the £2,000 mark, up and down there. And that's quite a lot of money to outlay. Now, 1,400 quid is a lot of money to outlay as well, but actually now that the Wattbike Atoms have been around for a while, you will find them on eBay, you will find them second hand, And actually the amount of use they get and the environment they're in means that they hold up pretty well. So if budget is an issue for you, then I recommend looking on eBay and other sites to see if you can find some second-hand units. If budget is less of an issue, then buying one of these new is expensive, but not ridiculously so. And with the new bits of kit that are coming on the market, they are getting more expensive, they are getting more technical. They are having fans built into them, for example, and in some cases screens built into them. So they really can start to become quite a costly feature. So, pros and cons. Well, obviously the pros of owning these things are they are very convenient. I don't need to mess around with my other bike, and it's always here and it's always ready to go. They're very adjustable, so I can set up the geometry so it's a mountain bike fit or a road bike fit. They connect to a whole bunch of different applications with lots and lots of data, so you can make sure that you're tracking your fitness and improving your fitness as much as possible. And like I said, you can wear what you like, and you don't have to worry about looking the part while you're out on the road. You can look any way you like. So there's some of the pros of owning a home bike trainer. Some of the cons, well, there's space. These things do take up a fair amount of space, and you need to make sure you've either got that space available or you can wheel this thing in and out of a space fairly easily. They are very heavy, so storage and the marks that they might leave on the carpet, for example, those sorts of things can be an issue. Yeah, they're not portable at all. I couldn't, for example, take this to a friend's house, but I could wheel it to the garage and leave it in the garage and use it while it's in the garage, but it's not particularly portable. And then there's the sounds or the noise that these things make. So this is actually quite quiet. I wouldn't say that this was a noisy thing. It's not as quiet as my Wahoo Kicker. It's slightly louder than the Wahoo Kicker, but not a lot. So noise is something you do need to think about. They're not that loud, and again, on some of the links to some of the other videos, they'll talk about the number of decibels, but they're not too bad. So in summary, I've had this for approximately a year now, and whilst it was a fair outlay, I do use it. I find it really useful. I find the convenience of having it at home really, really useful. It's just one of those things where, as I said, you can use it if you do have a specific training program, but you can also just jump on it and just kind of give it a blast. I like the fact that I can wear what I like. I think that's really useful to me, and the fact that it's at home and those convenience factors all fold in means that for me it was a worthwhile investment. It is a lot to outlay. You can go to the gym, you can have cheaper options, but for me it was a worthwhile investment, and I'd recommend it to anybody. So that was it really. Not a deep dive technical review, but definitely some ideas for you, some thoughts for you about what it means to own one of these things and whether it might be worth you getting one. As I said at the beginning of the video, if you like my videos, please remember to like, please remember to comment and let me know your thoughts. Please remember to share and subscribe. Other than that, I think I'll wrap up there. I hope this has been useful. Take care.